Hi, I'm Matt and welcome to my latest tech news video. I will be covering recent tech news in this video. These news videos will generally cover gaming related tech, but also tech and hardware in general. I'm grateful for any feedback, so if you need to do so, please leave a comment below. You can also like and subscribe if you're enjoying my videos. Before I get into the news, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who has subbed so far. I'm now over 20 subscribers, so yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you. Now let's get into the tech news. The first few bits will be on the recent leaks that came from Microsoft's court case, legal battle with the US Federal Trade Commission over whether they should be allowed to acquire Activision Blizzard. Some hardware info was leaked as a result of this, and I will cover the details of that next. I will add that I did cover these first two stories to a certain degree, including some more in my latest gaming news videos and some more gaming related stuff in that video, which should have released yesterday. So there may be some bits that I repeat from that video, although I will be covering the hardware and tech side of things a bit more deeply in this video when compared to that video. Anyway, this is another leak coming, as I said, due to Microsoft's recent FTC trial. Had covered that a mid-gen Xbox Series X and S refresh wasn't looking likely in a previous tech news video, I believe. But now, if these details are true, we could be looking at a refresh of both the Series X and S. I also put some leaked images up, though they are just renders from what I can tell and could differ from the finished devices. The Series X refreshed, codenamed Brooklyn, Brooklin, looks like it will be all digital, similar to the Series S, and has a similar or slimmer cylindrical design, though it could differ from the release machine. And I will add that the digital only branding, as I said in the gaming news as well, has me a bit concerned, as I know people do like to use physical media, and I think they should at least give people a choice between physical and digital only variants. Now, for more the hardware side of things, the Series X refresh is apparently going to release next October and will have a 2TB SSD, Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, a new south bridge for I/O, 6nm die shrink, a USB-C front port with power delivery, reduced PSU power by 50%, a new lower power standby mode, reducing power by 20%, I guess, in the standby mode, and come bundled with a new redesigned Xbox controller, and should cost the same as the current Series X, around $500. The Series S refresh, codenamed Elwood, is going to be all digital, just like the current Series S model, and if the leaked images are the final looks for the device, it will be essentially identical to the current model looks wise. It will have a 1TB SSD as standard, similar to the new black Series S, and also include Wi-Fi 6E, Bluetooth 5.2, the same lower power standby mode as the Series X, and the new redesigned Xbox controller, and should also keep the same $300 pricing of the current Series S, though I've seen them for cheaper than that. The increase in storage capacity to 1TB as standard is a must, I feel, so that's good, although 2TB across both models would have been nice. Nothing was confirmed in regard to these consoles being more powerful, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't have an updated chip, although maybe they will just be slim-like variants rather than fully updated hardware revisions, which is more seeming the case now. This is something that Phil Spencer referenced previously when he said that, quote, as soon as you start doing mid-gen refreshes, you've got a bunch of issues in front of developers on what platform they target. So yeah, unless I'm reading from the quote wrong, it looks like these refreshes will not be updating the hardware, at least not when it comes to game performance. The reduced die size, though, enabled through the use of a 6nm node, should improve cooling performance and energy efficiency, as they said. Although it doesn't mention a die shrink for the Series S refresh, I imagine it will be on 6nm too. Performance-wise, this is kind of interesting, as I had covered that a PS5 Pro might be coming next year, or maybe the following year, and this would have updated graphics hardware that could potentially provide a performance boost of up to 2x over the current PS5. Xbox not making a Pro variant seems odd to me, but it looks like they just want to focus on efficiency. Maybe that will change by the time these are released, but I'm not sure. Hardware is generally decided on a number of years in advance, and it's likely too late to alter a machine that is potentially coming out in just over a year from now. Now, the next major leak is the year in which we can expect the next gen Xbox console to arrive. This first bit of info came about during a meeting held in May of 2022. This meeting was attended by Microsoft executives, including Phil Spencer, who's head of gaming at the company. I would now add an image of a leak roadmap here. When questioned, quote, is the plan for 2028 to keep that illegible like model or force a Windows-like flexibility / capabilities like model? Kevin Gamble, corporate vice president of gaming ecosystems, responded that, quote, we have already started this journey with Xbox One and Xbox One X, furthering I don't know what happened there, furthering it in Series S/X. We need to be even more flexible going forward with Gen 10, but also provide the ability for creators to take advantage of unique hardware capabilities. Microsoft lawyers previously said that, quote, the next new generation of consoles are not expected to be released before the fall of 2028 at the very earliest. The statement was provided by the lawyers to the UK's CMA last year as part of the CMA's legal battle with Microsoft over their acquisition of Activision Blizzard. A release date for the next gen Xbox of no earlier than fall of 2028 seems reasonable to me, as the current gen consoles would have been out for approximately 8 years by then. So yeah, I certainly wouldn't be surprised if next gen consoles were released in late 2028, including a next gen console from Sony, although late 2029 wouldn't surprise me either. Now for some specs. This is where I differ a bit from the gaming news, primarily, where I actually get into more of the specs of the next gen console, and I will put images up here of the leaked spec sheet. Under the section titled Key Strategic Decisions and Investments, a number of specs and features are detailed. I'll cover them now. Under the Silicon subheading, we have two potential CPU choices, one ARM 64 based and another x64 based Zen 6, so either an ARM CPU or a more traditional x64 based AMD Ryzen Zen 6 processor. Current Xbox Series consoles use a Zen 2 based CPU, I believe. Also notes a balance of big/little CPU cores, which is interesting, as I don't believe AMD has confirmed a PE core / E core hybrid CPU, but it is rumored to be coming. Maybe it will arrive with Zen 6 in a few years. GPU wise, the sheet mentions a co-design with AMD or license AMD IP Navi 5. Navi 5, I believe, is an RDNA 5 or would be an RDNA 5 based GPU. I believe Navi 5 is the code name, or Navi is the code name for recent RDNA GPUs. And an RDNA 5 GPU, they're probably going to release to desktop before 2028, I would have thought. It also looks like they are considering a co-designed GPU with AMD, which would be Navi based too. Next, an NPU is mentioned. An NPU would be a machine learning / AI processor, from what I can tell. I had to look that up. I've not heard of one before. So the next gen Xbox might have dedicated AI silicon, which could help with a number of things. And they also note in this section forward compatibility. Under the graphics innovation section, we have next gen DirectX ray tracing. So ray tracing will likely be pushed harder, as it's not very advanced on the current consoles, at least when compared to PC's ray tracing. Dynamic global illumination refers likely to real-time global illumination being used for games on the console in the future, or on the next gen Xbox. Micro polygon rendering optimization. It seems that this feature, I checked this, I had to look this up as well, would allow for increased image detail. Then machine or ML based super resolution, so probably some kind of machine learning FSR or machine learning based approach to super resolution, similar to Nvidia's DLSS technology. And then we have extensibility model for faster iteration and innovation. This could refer to a GPU which can implement new software features as time goes on. It's another thing I sort of had to look into briefly. The final section is Thin OS. This probably refers to a reduced bloat OS operating system, and maybe a handheld OS. At this point, I feel that I'm getting into the weeds a bit, so I won't say too much more. But this is quite interesting stuff, especially the references to ARM CPUs, AMD Zen 6, and Navi 5, as those are all upcoming techs on the CPU and GPU front. Now, some more details that were leaked in the documentation speak of Microsoft's vision for the next Xbox as being to quote, develop a next generation hybrid game platform capable of leveraging the combined power of the client and cloud to deliver deep immersion and entirely new classes of game experiences. With that statement, I believe Microsoft will be pushing cloud quite hard for its next Xbox console. I will say that this may mean that the next Xbox will lose the ability to play physical media, which is quite concerning, as I mentioned earlier with the Series X refresh. I don't typically use physical that much anymore, though I do have older physical copies of games from the PS2, PS1, PS2, Xbox 360, PS3, to the PS4 era of gaming, as well as retro PC games that I sometimes play. But I'm not saying I would never buy a physical game again, but most of the physical games I buy are older and retro stuff these days. And I guess I wouldn't say PS4 was retro yet. But yeah, so I do still sometimes buy PS4 games, but not anything sort of brand new in a while physically. But yeah, so yeah, may have not have bought brand new physical games in a while. However, I think it's a good thing to have a disc drive, as a lot of people still like to buy physical game copies of new games, and I could maybe see them going down the USB disc drive route, but that isn't ideal. It's probably better to have it implemented into the actual console hardware. This cloud gaming feature is reinforced by the fact that Xbox earlier this year had announced that they have a cloud native, in quotes, game publishing division. I think cloud gaming certainly has a future, but I do still believe players should have a choice between physical, digital, and cloud gaming. I will say I have used Xbox's cloud gaming service, and it runs fine with certain games. I played through Gears of War 4 and 5 on my Xbox using it, and it worked pretty good. There were a few connection issues, but nothing major. However, I will add, when I played Redfall via cloud gaming, I kept having issues and only ended up playing for around an hour or so before I just downloaded it on PC. It's weird that Redfall had quite a few streaming issues. Maybe I tried it on a bad day, as I played through those aforementioned Gears games with, yeah, basically no issue. And yeah, I will mention I have played, I think, all the Gears games now. Played previous to 4 and 5, I played all the other older ones on the Xbox through yeah, just regular digital download. And I, yeah, might play them on PC at some point just to give it a go on that on PC. But anyway, get back. The big negative with cloud gaming is that if you don't have a high speed internet connection, because you don't need one, or you live in a more rural area, among a number of other reasons, then cloud gaming won't work very well, or even not at all. Um, but yeah, that's another reason why physical media should continue to exist alongside digital and cloud for those who don't have, yeah, for those who don't have access to high speed internet for one reason or another. Hopefully, they might go down the route Sony's done with the PS5 and have a discless and disc version of their main console, and their only current gen console, I guess. Or they could go down the route of the Series X and S again, but with one digital, one disc. But yeah, we're not really sure on that front. Before I move on from the Microsoft slash Xbox news, I did want to quickly cover, as I did in my gaming news video, Phil Spencer's response, as it does have implications for the Microsoft slash Xbox coverage from today and yesterday as well. Phil Spencer tweeted while I was putting this video together, I will include the tweet here, that the leaked information is essentially out of date and that, quote, so much has changed. His entire tweet on X reads, quote, we've seen the conversation around old emails and documents. It's hard to see our team's work shared in this way because so much has changed and there's so much to be excited about right now and in the future. We will share the real plans when we are ready. As hardware is generally more set in stone, so to speak, I wouldn't expect the Xbox Series refresh and the next gen Xbox info to differ much from what was leaked, but I could be wrong. We will likely find out more official info in time, as Phil referenced. I do think it is going to be an interesting couple of years on the gaming hardware front, especially in regard to consoles, with the potential switch to Steam Deck to Xbox Series refreshes and the potential PS5 Pro coming. So that's the Microsoft Xbox stuff. I'll now move on to some more general PC stuff and other news. But yeah, now for a few bits of Nvidia news. First up are some RTX 5090 rumors. These come in the form of speculation from a chip hell user Panzerlied, I believe that's how you pronounce it, who, according to video cards, has proven to be a reliable source when it comes to Nvidia rumors, leaks, and so on. But as this is speculation, I wouldn't blame you for being skeptical. Anyway, the RTX 5090 is likely going to be the flagship graphics card of Nvidia's upcoming next-gen Blackwell gaming GPUs, the RTX 50 series. Looks like we are over a year away from the release of the RTX 50 series, as well as AMD's RDNA 4 GPUs, with both potentially coming towards the end of next year, but it looks more likely they'll come early 2025 at this rate. If these rumours are true, then we can expect the RTX 5090 to be another sizable boost in performance gen over gen when compared to the RTX 4090, Nvidia's current Ada Lovelace RTX 40 series gaming series flagship. I will put an image up here summarising the rumoured performance bump metrics. I'll simply list off these metrics now. When compared to the RTX 4090, the RTX 5090 will, if rumours are correct, have a 50% increase in scale. This likely refers to core count as shown in the video cards article. A 52% increase in memory bandwidth, a 78% increase in cache, likely L2 cache, a bump in frequency of 15%, likely GPU boost frequency, and finally a potential boost in performance over the RTX 4090 of 1.7 times, so 70% increase. As noted by video cards, the RTX 5090 will more than likely feature GDDR7 and could also have a 512-bit memory bus if that size of memory bus isn't specifically reserved for a Titan class card or a 90 Ti variant. The GDDR7 being used may also not be the top spec to GDDR7. We'll also put another image up here from video cards showing the speculated RTX 5090 specs. So yeah, if these rumours are true, we could see quite a large leap in performance going from the RTX 4090 to the 5090. 70% increase in performance is quite substantial. I believe this is a similar performance boost to the RTX 4090 over the RTX 3090 from what I can tell. But that will obviously depend on the workload gaming or otherwise, and will differ game to game generally. I should also note that the RTX 5090 might stay with the 24 gig of VRAM like the RTX 3090 and 4090 before it, but there is speculation it may have 32 gigabyte of VRAM, which seems a rather large amount, especially for gaming workloads. Although, as games keep eating up VRAM in recent years, maybe it will be needed in the future. I'm not really sure. It does seem a large amount though, very overkill for 1080p or 1440p anyway, I would have thought. If Nvidia sticks with 24 gigs of VRAM, I imagine that we will be fine for the foreseeable future in 4K, but I could be wrong, you never know these days. The next bit is about DLSS 3.5. Cyberpunk 2077 is a pretty demanding game, especially when ray tracing is used, and now the game has been updated to feature what I believe is the first implementation of DLSS 3.5 and ray reconstruction. Ray reconstruction is the latest tech to be added to the DLSS feature set. According to Nvidia, this new DLSS tech will help boost the quality of ray tracing while also not increasing the GPU load, at least not significantly according to them. Ray tracing has some inherent flaws when it comes to image noise, I believe, and Nvidia has developed ray reconstruction, which is supported by its RTX direct illumination to reduce this noise and provide higher quality image. High quality image rendering output when ray tracing is used in games. I will include some related images around here to detail the quality difference and FPS metrics. I'll also link Hardware Unboxed and Gamers Nexus videos, where both channels go deep on the quality changes shown in DLSS 3.5 in Cyberpunk 2077. Both, will be in the video spotlight section for today also. From what I can tell, it does improve the quality when using ray tracing in Cyberpunk, but to get a playable frame rate in Cyberpunk 2077 when using the game's ray tracing overdrive mode, which uses path tracing, a more advanced form of ray tracing, I believe, it looks like, to get playable frame rates in that, DLSS 3.5 will need to be enabled, as even the RTX 4090 only gets around 60 FPS in 1080p without DLSS and overdrive, RT overdrive mode. When DLSS 3.5 is enabled with RT overdrive, the RTX 4090 manages to get around 100 FPS and the RTX 4080 around 85 FPS at 4K. These graphs were provided by Nvidia, so if you like more independent numbers, definitely check the Hardware Unboxed and Gamers Nexus videos. As mentioned, these will be linked in the description in the Spotlight section. And quick Nvidia Blackwell news now. It looks like Nvidia will be utilizing a chiplet design as opposed to a monolithic one on its next gen Blackwell GPUs, specifically the GPUs which will be targeted towards the AI and HPC high performance computing markets. This Blackwell chip that is rumored to be switching to a chiplet design is the Blackwell GB100. Currently, I think only AMD's RDNA 3 consumer desktop GPUs use a chiplet design. At least the higher end ones do anyway, like the RX 7900 XTX. The chiplet approach is, as you may expect, different to the traditional monolithic GPU design approach. The chiplet design is also referred to as MCM, or multi-chip module, although it does look like the Nvidia's Blackwell-based RTX 50 series GPUs will stay monolithic. Both designs have their own positives and negatives, with one positive of the chiplet approach being a reduction in manufacturing costs. At least I believe last time I checked that was the case. So yeah, this is quite interesting news. Just to add, it has been reported previously that Nvidia may move to a multi-chip module design for the RTX 60 series in the future, but that is quite a few years away yet. The final bit of Nvidia news is specifically related to its AIB partner ASUS. ASUS has decided to produce a very expensive graphics card, the ASUS RTX 4090 ROG Matrix, or ROG Matrix. This thing actually looks pretty wild, and there is even one signed by Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang, which will be auctioned off to support the Make-A-Wish Foundation charity, which is cool. I will include a couple images of the Matrix 4090 here. The card looks very impressive and features a 360mm AIO and has been tweaked to boost around 6% higher than the reference RTX 4090. One big issue though, the Asus card is $3,200, so approximately double the cost of the standard RTX 4090's MSRP. While it's a pretty cool card, that price is completely ridiculous, I feel. I couldn't imagine spending that on any graphics card, especially since you could just get an RTX 4090 for around $1,600 and add your own water block if you wanted to, or just stick with the reference model, as the RTX 4090's cooler design has no problems keeping the card cool from what I can tell. I did watch Hardware Unbox's video reviewing the card, and it was an interesting watch. I will link the video in the description. Now for a piece of AMD news, specifically AMD Threadripper HEDT news. I've covered Threadripper 7000 before, but now we have some more details relating to its release date and the highest end processor in the lineup. The next Threadripper series, codenamed Stormpeak, is looking like it will release sometime this fall or autumn. So as we are in autumn or fall now, that only leaves a couple months left for a possible release. Another leak is that an image, I'll put the image up, leaked showing the top of the line Threadripper 7000 HEDT high-end desktop CPU, the Threadripper Pro 7995 WX96 core 192 thread processor, beating Intel's equivalent HEDT Xeon by around 75%. The text on the leaked image reads, quote, up to 75% more renders per day. Just to compare, the Intel Xeon W9-3495X shown is a 56 core 112 thread part. And to add, the Threadripper part finished the render in 657 seconds, while the Xeon part finished the render in 1125 seconds. Also add an image of the video card's Threadripper chart. Even though I have no need for a Threadripper CPU, I still find the HEDT market interesting, and I shall be looking forward to reviews of Threadripper 7000 CPUs, mainly the 96 core processor. That would be a cool tech video to watch, I think. Now for a couple bits of Intel news. I had mentioned the Intel Innovation 2023 event in a couple previous tech news videos, and the event is now finished, I believe. Interestingly, we didn't receive a release date for the release of the 14th gen Raptor Lake S refresh EPUs, unless I completely missed the announcement. But that should include the 14600K, 14700K, and 14900K, and so on. But we did get a release confirmation of Intel's first Core Ultra branded Meteor Lake CPUs. These are mobile processors and will be releasing on the 14th of December this year. I will throw up some relevant images going forward. These new mobile CPUs will feature a new P-core and E-core design, codenamed Redwood Cove, and Crestmont respectively, and will feature AI compute function and hardware acceleration. The new Intel Core Ultra processors will also feature PCIe Gen 5, USB 4, and Thunderbolt 4, and will have updated integrated graphics in the form of a new Xe-LPG graphics tile, which is based on the ARC GPU architecture. Intel says that the GPU will provide up to twice the performance when compared to their previous integrated GPUs, and will also feature hardware accelerated AV1 encoding. Though, as Ars Technica points out, the media engine is built into the SoC rather than into the GPU itself. So if you want a new Intel-powered laptop, then December might be the month you've been waiting for. I'm looking forward to reviews of the laptops featuring these new Core Ultra processors. It'll be rather interesting to see how they perform, especially in gaming. The next bit of Intel news is some confirmation that Intel will use 3D stacked cache in its future CPUs, similar to how AMD currently use 3D cache on some of its Ryzen processors, like the Ryzen 7 7800X 3D and Ryzen 9 7950X 3D. As part of a Q&A held at Intel's Innovation 2023 event in San Jose, Pat Gelsinger, who is the current CEO of Intel, was questioned on whether we would see Intel using 3D stacked cache in the future for its CPUs. I'll quote the answer that Pat Gelsinger gave. When you reference Vcache here, you're talking about a very specific technology that TSMC does with some of its customers as well. Obviously, we're doing that differently, right? He continued, quote, in our roadmap, you're going to see this idea of the 3D silicon where we'll have a cache on one die, right? And then we'll have CPU compute on a stacked die on top of it. Plan for Intel is to eventually implement its own form of stacked cache, including using its EMIB or EMIB and Foveros tech. As shown with Ryzen 3D V-cache CPUs, we will likely see a performance increase on any future Intel CPUs that utilize this stacked 3D cache. Although when Intel will implement the tech into its CPUs is uncertain, but it could be a few years yet. And another week and another in Nintendo Switch 2 leak. This time a leak coming from Activision as part of the same leaks that I covered earlier in this video. Leaks which were leaked as part of ongoing FTC v Microsoft court case. Not a massive one when compared to previous Switch 2 leaks, but still noteworthy nonetheless. These new Switch 2 leaks come from an internal Activision email and detail how the company was briefed on the next-gen Switch successor. According to the email, the Switch 2 will likely be at least as powerful as the PS4 and Xbox One consoles. I assume the base models and not the Pro or One X versions, but I could be wrong. I'll quote the email as described in the video card's article, quote, given the closer alignments to Gen 8 platforms in terms of performance and our previous offerings on PS4/Xbox One, it is reasonable to assume we could make something compelling for the next gen NG Switch as well. It should be helpful to secure early access to development hardware prototypes and prove that out nice and early. As noted by video cards, the email is from a few years ago and thus could be out of date, and the specs and so on could have changed since then. Though the email is still interesting, I feel. I will add, just in case you've not seen any of the other Switch 2 rumours I covered, that the Switch 2 will supposedly have an Ampere GPU at its core, and will be able to run a form of DLSS. Ampere is the GPU architecture behind Nvidia's 30 series, RTX 30 series. But yeah, which would mean it would be considerably more powerful than the current Switch's Maxwell-based GPU architecture. And the final thing that I wanted to cover today are the PC requirements for Assassin's Creed Mirage. AC Mirage is the next mainline Assassin's Creed game and is releasing on the 5th of October this year, so in a couple weeks. Going by the specs shown, it looks like the game will run on all sorts of PC specs, so that's good to know. I will add that we won't know until release how the game actually performs, but at least these are some guidelines. I will now cover the requirements laid out by Ubisoft now, and I will put an image on screen so you can see for yourself. First up, we have the minimum 1080p low/30 FPS spec. GPU wise, it denotes an Intel Arc A380, which is a 6GB card or maybe there's a lower variant model, I'm not quite sure. An Nvidia GeForce GTX 1066 gig model, or an AMD Radeon RX 570 4 gig. CPU wise, it details an i7 4790K or an i5 8400 for Intel Arc with rebar, or a Ryzen 5 1600. For RAM, it specifies 8GB in dual channel, Windows 10 or 11, and 40GB of storage. All tiers have Windows 10/11 and 40GB storage, so I won't go over those again. The second tier is recommended. This is for 1080p again, but at the high preset and 60 FPS. GPU wise, it recommends an ARC A750 8GB, a GTX 1660 Ti 6GB, or an RX 5600 XT, which is 6GB. CPU wise, an i7 8700K or a Ryzen 5 3600. Onto RAM, it recommends 16GB. The rest of the tiers also have 16GB RAM detailed. The next tier is the enthusiast tier. It notes 1440p to 2K, high preset at 60 FPS. On the GPU front, it details an ARC A770 8GB. There's actually a 16GB model of that as well, I believe. An RTX 2070 or an RX 5700 XT. On the CPU front, it details an i7 9700K, which is my previous CPU, or a Ryzen 7 3700X. Final tier, the quote ultra tier, shows a 4K resolution with an ultra preset at 60 FPS. The two GPUs that it specifies are the RTX 3080 10GB and the RX 6900 XT. For the CPU, it specifies an i5 11600K or a Ryzen 5 5600X. So those are the PC specs as sourced from Ubisoft. Nothing really out of the ordinary here, I feel. I'm kind of surprised the game only requires 40GB storage. I was expecting it to be in the 80 to 100GB plus range. So that's a pleasant surprise, as according to Steam, Assassin's Creed Valhalla requires 160GB of storage on PC. That's around Microsoft Flight Sim 2020's base install storage size. But yeah, this AC Mirage, this is similar to Assassin's Creed Origins, which is a bit over 40GB in size for the base game. So yeah, at least you won't have to worry too much about storage space, I guess, with Mirage. So that is the tech news come to an end for today. I will do a quick video spotlight. And as I hinted at earlier, this is two videos, Hardware Unbox and Gaming Nexus's videos on DLSS 3.5, testing it in Cyberpunk 2077. So yeah, Tim and Steve test DLSS 3.5's implementation in Cyberpunk 2077, including pros and cons of the new DLSS version. Games Nexus, as I said, also has a DLSS 3.5 Cyberpunk video that I will link. Both interesting watches, definitely check them out if you're interested. And before I sort of wrap the video up, I will add a bit that I added in the gaming news video, as I detailed in my recent gaming news video. I may include articles and other media format spotlights going forward, as I did in that video featuring a couple Tomb Raider related IGN articles. I will still do video spotlights as I have done here. It's just a way to mix things up a bit, I feel. So yeah, that's all the tech news coverage from me today. If you're interested, you can also check out my gaming news, which was published yesterday, should have been published yesterday. As always, feedback is appreciated, so go ahead and like or dislike and leave a comment. If you enjoyed my videos and commentary, feel free to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back again soon.